Hello class. Today we'll study about memory. Memory is a cognitive process of mind. It denotes the ability and power of our mind to retain information that helps in the process of memorization. Now generally remembering and memorization are both used and it carry the same meaning. Regularly we use both the words as synonymous, whether it is memorization or it's remembering. While differentiating between these two, however, Levin added something. Levin said memory can be linked and cross-linked for future reference, and remembering depends on how the brain goes about coding its input. Then remembering, according to Levin, when we use the word remembering or remember, that means it focuses more on the brain functioning of storing the information or of keeping the information, encoding the information. While in case when we use the term memory is used to denote, like if I am using it to refer to an event that has occurred, that is, it can be linked with some previous event that has already occurred. Now the phenomenon of memory can be classified under 4 heads. One is fixation, acquisition or learning. Next is retention, then recall or reproduction, then is recognition. These are called the factors of memory. So we actually have 4 factors of memory: the learning, retention, recall or reproduction and recognition. Now what is this acquisition or learning? This is exactly what the learning means. The word learning means what you know about the thing. The same thing, it is the effortful act of memorizing for getting the impression. Like you study, you learn to grasp the subject matter, to know the event. Learning is the same thing. When you are effortfully doing something to bring that impression in. Means you want to keep that information. That is acquisition of knowledge. Next is retention. Retention is the preservative factor of the mind. Then whatever touches our consciousness, it leaves a trace or a stamp on the mind and is retained or stored for future uses. They are actually stored in forms of images. So whenever a stimulus, whenever a new thing that comes into your consciousness, whenever something is learned, it is kept in your mind. That keeping the thing in your mind for future references. Why for future references? Whenever a stimulating situation or a same type of situation occurs, these retained images, they are revived and they are formed or used as a reference point so that memory can be possible. So first acquisition of knowledge, then that knowledge is stored in the mind. This is retention. Next is recall or reproduction. Now, storing up the information and just bringing out when it is needed is not enough for the purpose of a memory. These retained images must also be reinstated, reproduced, recalled or revived in the mind. Now this reproduction is made possible by the action of a stimulus or a suggestive question. This question revives the image of the past experience in their original form, order, arrangement and relation. The relation among images by virtue of which a stimulus can reproduce them is called association. The association of images is governed by the number of laws, and these laws are called laws of association. Now what happens in recall is, now we are saying it it is not just a recall or reproduction. It is not just I am storing it and bringing it out, but we are bringing it out in exact formation, in exact relationship of the question that is being asked. Like, if you know, as we will study about this memory, you will know that there are various theories and various other things that is related to memory, and we will learn a whole chapter on memory. But whenever a question on memory comes, obviously, as you see the word memory, you won't be writing the whole chapter. No, you will be writing exactly what has been asked from you. So this thing, when you are not only retaining the image or retaining your information, but also bringing out the exact information that is being asked from you, the only that part. As if when I am asking you, what is your name? Now, by just hearing the term name, you are not naming your whole family, you are not naming yourself, you are not naming along with your father, mother, grandparents, your hometown. No, you are naming only yourself. That means you are addressing to the question, and among the various related names that you have stored in your brain, you have stored so many names, you are picking out only your name to answer the question. So that is important in reproduction. Now, this retention is basically a passive process of subconscious mind, but this reproduction is basically an active process of the conscious mind. Why? Because for reproducing the content of the previous experience, the mind is fully active. It is searching, either automatically or voluntarily. It is searching the answers in your mind. So reproduction is a active process of mind, while retention is a passive process. Now we are coming to the fourth factor, and that is recognition. What is recognition? Recognition is the feeling or the sense of familiarity that accompanies the recognition of an object of past experience as familiar or as a known object. When you see a bottle and you identify it as it's my object, it's my bottle. So this is your familiarity or your recognition of the object. In meeting person for the second time, for example, we have this sense of familiarity because we have already met the person beforehand. We know his name, his or her name, the way he talks or like that. In the second meeting, we see, I know this person. So this sense of familiarity, this is thus recognition. Thus recognition differs from recall in that to recognize we need to simply react with the feeling of familiarity to the stimulus before us. We know this. Recognition is when the thing is, as I am asking you, what is your name? By hearing this, your name, you have a sense of familiarity. I know my name. This sense of familiarity, this sense of knowing the thing, this is recognition, picking out the correct information, and then recall is the bringing out it. Okay, so these are the four factors of memory. Now, our memory system has actually three components: encoding, storage, and retrieval. Now, what is encoding? Encoding refers to the transformation of a physical stimulus into a form that human memory accepts. Thus, it refers to the process by which the information is put into the storage or committed to memory. An external event like a list of words is given an internal representation. For example, if one is remembering an ice cream cone, one may remember it in the form of an image. Thus, it may be committed to memory either in the form of words or in the form of an image, including any other flexible form that may be retained in the memory. That may be retained in the memory. So encoding is, what is coding? Code is we are giving codes. So when we are telling we are retaining or storing the thing in our mind. So mind actually accepts its own language. This is so similar to the computers. If somebody knows computer, you know computer has his own language to understand. When you put the information to the computer, computer always encodes it into its own language. So as computer takes the information in its own language, in the same way our brain also have its own language, and whatever we want to store in our memory generally gets encoded in the form of neural transmissions that is accepted in our body the way it can be stored in our mind. This process is called encoding. Next is storage, that refers to the retention of the information that is encoded. It refers to what happened to the information after it has been encoded. That means after encoding, after that information has been transferred to the body language, to the neural, to the chemical language of the body is stored. Then it comes the storage of that information. And lastly is the retrieval. Retrieval refers to the process related to the recovering information from the storage. It may or may not be possible to pull out some information. For example, if you are being asked who was the second president of India, you may know, obviously you may know, but you may not instantly answer it. So this implies that although the information may be encoded and you have stored, yet there are some moments when it might not be possible to retrieve that information. So retrieval is a process in which to perform a successful memory function, we can't stop with encoding or storage. It must be completed with the process of retrieval, that is the recovering of information when needed, recovering the information from the storage when needed. So these are the components of memory, and you can very easily relate these components with the factors that we have already learned. The factors, the 4 factors, the learning, the retention, the recall and recognition part, that can be very well related to these components of memory, that is encoding, storage and retrieval. Now we are moving on to the memory system, the different theories. There are different theories, and in this lecture we will be focusing on one. Now most of the theories of memory have been presented in the form of information processing models. These models have compared human memory to computer, which has different storage systems that process and stores information. One such model has been put forward by R.C. Atkinson and R.M. Shiffrin. They proposed that the sensory input that reaches the receptors are stored in the sensory register or sensory memory for a brief period of time. So which are the sensory registers? The sensory registers are our sense organ through which our sensation occurs, through which the stimulus comes into our body. So they are the sensory registers. If attention is paid to the input, it is transmitted to the short-term memory or the short-term store. The short-term memory has a limited capacity and holds the information for a brief period of time. New incoming information displaces the old information, and when the information is displaced by the new informations, the old ones are forgotten. However, information can be held in short-term store through rehearsal. That means if we rehearse the materials, then it can be stored. The informations can be stored in the short-term store for a longer period of time. That doesn't mean that it will go on and on, but a bit longer. When information is rehearsed, it goes to the long-term store or long-term memory. Now, information in LTM may be retained for your whole life. That is why it is long-term memory, and it has a very long capacity. It retains the information all your life. Now this is the general model, general layout of the model, and we will be discussing it in details now. Now we are coming to which was the first level. The first was the short-term store or short-term memory. No, previous to that was, we started it with the sensory registers or the sensory memory. So we said that sensory registers are our sense organs. Now we are coming to sensory memory, the first part, the first place from where this multi-store model of memory is starting. So what is sensory memory? Sensory memory holds a vivid and complete image of a sensory information for about 0.25 seconds to 2 seconds, after which it decays. It has been observed that visual information is held in the sensory memory in the form of an image. This image is a copy of the visual input and is called an iconic image. A similar phenomenon for an auditory system is known as echoic memory. Just as one can see the picture of a stimulus for a moment after it disappears, similarly one can hear a sound lingering in the ear for a moment after it stops. A virtual input is held in the sensory memory for about 1 to 2 seconds, while an auditory input is held for about 4 to 5 seconds. So what is this? It is telling that whenever if we look to an object for some time, its impression remains in our eyes for 0.25 seconds to 2 seconds for such a brief period of time. So you have been looking at an object for some time, and after that object has been removed, or you have moved your eyes from that, you are not looking at the object, but still the impression of that object remains in your eyes for 2 seconds, 0.25 to 2 seconds. That is called an iconic image. Now how will you relate it? Iconic, it happens in eye. It's in eye. It's a visual image. And in the same way it forms in the ear, that is called the echoic image. This is for the sound, where we have the echo. When we hear the echo is in your ear. So something related to your ear. So whatever happens, you were listening to a sound for some time. You are listening to a song for some time, but after that song stops, that sound, that melody lingers in your ears after it has been stopped, and it is for about 4 to 5 seconds. This impression of the song that was there but now it is stopped, the impression that it keeps in your ear is called the echoic image. Now we are moving on to the short-term memory. Now information in the sensory memory decays very rapidly. However, the information to which the attention is paid, it passes on to the short-term store or short-term memory. Information is held here in the short-term memory. The information is held for 20 to 30 seconds, after which it is displaced by new incoming informations. Information encoding in STM is acoustic in nature, that is, it consists of speech, sounds, visual images and words. Information is also semantic in nature, which means that meanings of the words are also stored in the STM. Now we are coming to the capacity of STM. As we have already said, key information in STM is kept for 20 to 30 seconds. That is the time period. Now what is the capacity? That means how much can we keep in STM? Now a limited amount of information can be held in STM. STM can hold about 5 to 9 chunks of information. Now what are these chunks? Chunks refers to any discrete unit of information. What is a chunk? Like a chunk of ice. So what is that? An amount, a discrete unit, a group of information. Chunking is like grouping of information. as it is STM has a limited capacity. If we have long things, it is very difficult to remember a string of things. Like if I say the words, the numbers, like I use the numbers 14916253649648111100000. Now can you repeat the words? Now this is very difficult, as so many things cannot be kept in STM. Now this capacity of STM can be increased by this process of chunking. Several items of information can be combined into one chunk, that is in groups. In chunk, and about 7 such chunks can be retained. Then about 40 items can be grouped into 7 chunks and can be held in STM. For example, now we have 10 digits of mobile numbers. Correct? So when we say the mobile numbers, just introspect yourself. Whenever we say mobile numbers, generally we offer some breaks in it. Some do, it's like 4 letters, 4 figures together, then 2. Some can say it as 5, 5. Some can say it as 3, 3, 4. So however we pronounce, how we memorize the mobile numbers, these groups are one chunks, and in this way we can remember a long 10 digits of mobile number in our STM. Now this concept of chunking was introduced by Miller, and this was called a magic number of 5. It was 7 plus minus 2, that is generally it's 7, that is called 7. It depends, it varies from individual to individual, that is plus minus, it's like plus minus 2 is like 7 plus 2 is 9 and 7 minus 2 is 5. So generally 5 to 9, this is the general range of information that can be stored in STM, that is according to Miller. This concept of chunking was introduced by him. Now when these natural limits of amount is exceeded, one obviously forgets the information, or it is forgotten from STM. Now to remember the large amount of informations, these informations need to be rehearsed so that it can be transferred to LTM or long-term memory. Through rehearsal or through rehearsing the items of information, this can be kept for a longer period of time. The rehearsal is the process by which the information is kept at the center of attention. In general, more an item of information is rehearsed, more likely it will be transferred to LTM. But this rehearsal, this is actually of two types. One is maintenance rehearsal and another is elaborative rehearsal. Now what is maintenance rehearsal? Maintenance rehearsal involves repetition of information over and over again, but without knowing the meaning. That means maintenance rehearsal, it's like you are learning an object, we are learning a thing, but we are not understanding the meaning, but we are mugging it up without understanding the meaning. For example, this new song Manike, what is that Sri Lankan song, Mage Hite. Many of the thing I am seeing many children are singing this song. Actually they doesn't know the meaning. Obviously we don't know the meaning of a Sri Lankan song. Many of we don't know, but we are actually rehearsing it and we are keeping it in the center of attention, and this is maintenance rehearsal. We are not understanding it is I guess Manika Mage Hite. So the song we are repeating it, and in repeating we are remembering it, but we are not doing it for any meaningful purpose, but you are doing it a maintenance rehearsal, that is mugging it up without an understanding. But an elaborative rehearsal, that involves giving meaning to the material rehearsed, when we are actually understanding the concept and keeping that concept in our mind. This is called the elaborative rehearsal. So we are two types of rehearsals can be done to keep the informations intact or alive in our memory for a longer period of time. Now we are coming to the last store of memory, that is the long-term memory. Now what is long-term memory? The long-term memory store large amount of informations over a long period of time. As I said, it might be for your lifetime. Information in LTM is episodic as well as semantic. Now I am using the word episodic. Now where do we get to see these episodes? What are episodes? Generally we see it in our serials, we see it in book writings, in the literatures, in the novels. So episodes are one cluster of information of an event that has occurred. So what episodic memory does is it records an individual's past experiences and episodes of one's life. For example, if I ask what happened in your 5th birthday or what happened in your 10th birthday, so among your whole life you are bringing out the information that happened on your 10th birthday of one day, one episode of your life. Or I'm asking something big. What happened when you appeared your first board exams? What was your feelings about the day before you are going to give your ICSE exams? So these are the things. So this is one episode, single episode, one part of your life that is being there. So episodic memory, it actually stores your life events, and this is both specific and autobiographical. For example, if one remembers a party one attended, it means that the event is stored in the episodic memory. Okay, now another word I used was semantic, and I used it previously also. Semantic means meanings. What is that? That is the abstract knowledge associated with the word. Semantic memory involves the abstract knowledge and meaning of the words in symbols, in the ideas and the rules for relating to them. That means, like, what are semantic? Like whenever I say, I'm telling you apple. As I say you an apple, an image of a red fruit appears in front of you. At the same time, a meaning, it's juicy and it is edible, it crops up in your mind. So semantic here, it involves the knowledge of the word that apple is a fruit. At the same time, its symbol, that is how it looks like, and the ideas and the rules related to them, that is, it is edible, it is juicy, and it is related to the fruit category. So that is your semantic knowledge. So long-term memory also has a semantic memory. Another form of memory that is procedural memory. And what is this procedural memory? This procedural memory involves memories of learned actions or skills, like riding a bicycle, driving a car, or cooking, walking. The verbs that we do, the actions that we do, the skills that we have learned, these things are actually stored in the long-term memory for our lifetime use. So this is basically the multi-store model, or as it is called, the Atkinson Shiffrin Model of memory. As we are discussing, I'll just give you a hint of another type of memory, that is a flashbulb memory. This can come as your short notes also. So what is a flashbulb memory? Flashbulb memory is a highly detailed and vivid snapshot of an event in exact and original form. Now what this means that the exact emotions that was triggered in that event when it actually occurred, when flashbulb memory happens, the same emotional outbreak happens. Like when you saw in front of your eyes a landslide. So whenever I ask you what was your experience about landslide, so whenever you just have that memory, if you are remembering it with same vividness as I was going, at what distance you first noticed the landslide, when you first noticed it, how was the feeling, when you were stranded, how you escaped, so every bit, who was with you, so every detail when you remember with the same type of emotional reaction pattern, with the same emotion that occurred when you actually experienced that event, when it happens in when you're remembering the thing, that is called a flashbulb memory. Okay, so this is not a part of this multi-store model, but as you are learning memory, as we are learning the different types of memory, so you should know about this, so I told you. So this is all about this Atkinson Shiffrin model. However, there are other theories of memory that we will be discussing in our next videos. Now regarding this video, if you have any problems, you can obviously comment here, or you can directly reach out to me in our classroom inbox. If you have any doubts, please let me know. Thank you, class.